The MKUltra window. November 1953. Cold War panic. Washington wants an edge. Inside the CIA's ultra-secret MKUltra program, run by chemist Sidney Gottlieb, agents test LSD on unwitting people to see if minds can be broken, remolded, controlled. Could a drug force confessions? Could it erase loyalty? That's the mission. Battlefield interrogation and psychological warfare. Frank Olson is a government biochemist from Fort Detrick, trained in aerosols and germ defense. At a CIA retreat, his colleagues slip LSD into his drink. No warning, no consent. He unravels fast. Panic, confusion, sleepless nights, a shaking conviction that something is terribly wrong. Handlers move him to New York's Statler Hotel for rest. They keep watch, or say they do. Just before 3 a.m., Olson sprints for the window. Glass explodes. He falls 13 stories to the street. Official line, suicide. Years later, declassified files admit the drugging and the covert program behind it. Cause of death? Fatal injuries from a high-rise fall. Cause of the fall? A secret CIA experiment with LSD, done to explore mind control and interrogation, pushed a stable scientist into a lethal crisis. Sarin at Porton Down, May 6, 1953. Porton Down, England, Britain's Cold War nerve center. A 20-year-old RAF airman, Ronald Madison, signs up for what he's told is common cold research. Inside, white coats from the Ministry of Defense's Chemical Defense Experimental Establishment tape a pad to his forearm and drip on a clear liquid, sarin, one of the deadliest nerve agents on Earth. Minutes tick, his pupils pin to pinpoints, sweat floods, muscles twitch, then seize. He can't swallow, he can't breathe. Medics rush in with oxygen and atropine, but his lungs have turned to cement, drowning in their own secretions. He convulses on a gurney while someone notes the time to collapse. Ronald never gets back up. Who ran this and why? Britain's MOD scientists, chasing battlefield answers. How much sarin disables a soldier? How fast? What antidotes work? What masks don't? Human data for chemical warfare readiness, gathered behind locked doors. The official line stays quiet for years. The family hears only a reaction. The clinical truth is brutal and precise. Acute organophosphate poisoning. Sarin blocks acetylcholinesterase. Nerves fire without end. Airways clamp shut. The heart gives out. Silence follows. The gene therapy crash. September 1999, Philadelphia. An 18-year-old named Jesse Gelsinger volunteers for a Phase 1 trial at the University of Pennsylvania's Institute for Human Gene Therapy, led by Dr. James Wilson. The plan sounds elegant. Deliver a healthy OTC gene to the liver using an adenovirus. The goal? Build the first real treatment for ornithine transcarbamylase deficiency and prove gene therapy can be safe at scale. In the cath lab, the vector flows into Jesse's hepatic artery. Hours later, his immune system detonates. Fever spikes. Blood pressure craters. His blood starts to sludge and clot at the same time. DIC. Ammonia rockets. His brain fogs. He's intubated in the ICU as machines breathe and filter his blood. Steroids, pressors, transfusions, none of it stops the storm. 4 days of freefall. Liver failing, lungs stiffening, kidneys shutting down. Parents at the bedside. Monitors screaming in a rhythm you can't unhear. After his death, investigators flag missed warning signs and conflicts of interest, reshaping research rules across the country. Why was the experiment done? To test whether a viral courier could safely deliver a missing gene and open a path to cure a lethal metabolic disease. Cause of death? Overwhelming inflammatory reaction to the adenoviral vector. Cytokine storm, disseminated intravascular coagulation, and multi-organ failure. Operation Sea Spray. September 1950. San Francisco wears its usual gray fog. Offshore, a U.S. Navy vessel opens tanks and releases a red powder-fine cloud, Serratia marcescens, chosen because it's visible, easy to grow, and billed as harmless. The mission is pure Cold War logic. Measure how a biological agent would spread through a big American city. Map the plume, time the exposures, and learn how to defend or attack. Within days, a rare infection appears at Stanford Hospital. Lab coats are baffled. The same unusual red pigment bacterium keeps showing up. 75-year-old Edward J. Nevin spikes fevers. The infection moves from urinary tract to blood. Antibiotics struggle. He slides into septic shock and dies. His family told it's a tragic anomaly. No one tells them the city was a living test range. Who did this and why? The U.S. Navy, working under a classified biological warfare program to study aerosol dispersion in a real urban environment and to gauge public vulnerability without causing serious harm. That phrase didn't age well. Clinical bottom line, septicemia hypoxemia from an opportunistic pathogen seeded by a covert military Unit 731's operating table. Winter, occupied Manchuria. A man with no name in the files, just a number, lies in a barracks run by the Imperial Japanese Army's Unit 731, commanded by Physician General Shiro Ishii. The mission is brutal science for war. Build biological weapons. Map how disease destroys the body. Find data no lab animal can give. He's deliberately infected with plague. Fever climbs. Lymph nodes swell. When symptoms peak, guards walk him into a bright room lined with enamel trays. There's no anesthesia. Surgeons open him to observe organ responses in real time, measuring pulse, pressure, temperature, and the steady drop of life as notes fill a clipboard. Why was this done? To give Japan a battlefield advantage. Weaponize pathogens. Perfect delivery methods. Learn exactly how long a human can survive and why. Minutes stretch. Readings flatten. He's gone. Official cause of death, hemorrhage and overwhelming infection during a non-anesthetized experimental surgery. Real cause? A secret military program that made the body a battlefield. The psychiatric injection. January 8th, 1953. New York State Psychiatric Institute. A 42-year-old tennis pro named Harold Blauer checks in for help with depression. In a quiet treatment room, doctors give him a series of escalating injections. Experimental compounds, they say. What they don't say, the project is funded through the U.S. Army, hunting for psychoactive chemicals that could disable enemies without bullets. The syringe sinks. Within seconds, Blauer stiffens. His jaw locks, eyes wide, skin draining color. Then, violent seizures, body arcing off the table. Oxygen plummets, pulse skids. Staff fumble for a crash cart. The room floods with shouted numbers and the squeal of metal wheels. His breathing snags, then stops. The line goes flat. For years, the files will hide the truth behind medical euphemisms. Later, court records show a mescaline-like agent. Pushed too fast, too strong. Because the mission wasn't therapy, it was data. Who ran it, and why? Institute psychiatrists under a secret army contract, testing hallucinogenic and incapacitating drugs for battlefield use. Interrogation, crowd control, chemical war. Official cause of death, acute toxic reaction. Clinical bottom line, fatal overdose leading to convulsions, cardiopulmonary collapse, and respiratory failure. From an experiment he never truly consented to. Guatemala's Berta. Guatemala City, 1948. A locked psychiatric ward. In the files, she's only Berta. In her room stand U.S. Public Health Service researchers, led by Dr. John C. Cutler, backed by the Pan American Sanitary Bureau and Guatemalan officials. Their mission? Deliberately infect people to study STDs, test penicillin's power, and refine wartime prevention. February. Berta is injected with syphilis. Treatment is delayed. Through spring and summer, she worsens. Lesions, fever, wasting. August 23rd. A note appears as if she were going to die. That same day, researchers place gonorrheal material in both eyes, urethra, and rectum, and reinfect her with syphilis. 4 days later, August 27th, Berta is dead. Why did they do it? Cold War reasoning. Generate real human data on transmission, dosing, and whether penicillin can prevent or cure infection fast. Knowledge they believed soldiers and public health planners needed. Consent wasn't the point. Results were. Clinical bottom line, death from overwhelming, deliberately induced infection after inadequate care. The record stayed quiet for decades, until historian Susan Reverby exposed the archive, and the U.S. apologized in 2010. The consent form that killed. June 2001, Baltimore. Ellen Roche is 24, healthy, and works down the hall at Johns Hopkins Asthma and Allergy Center. She volunteers for a physiology study, block a lung reflex with an old drug, then provoke a mild, reversible tightness to see how healthy airways recover. The lead team is Hopkins Pulmonology, Dr. Alkis Togias's group, asking a basic science question for asthma. The blocker is hexamethonium, once a blood pressure pill, never approved for inhalation. Decades-old papers had warned about lung injury, but that danger didn't make it plain onto the consent form. Ellen inhales the aerosol. Within days, she's coughing, gasping. Her lungs grow stiff and inflamed. ICU, ventilator, nothing turns it around. She dies before the month is out. Cause of death? Catastrophic respiratory failure after inhaled hexamethonium. Acute, scarring injury to the small airways that no machine could undo. Aftermath? The Federal Office for Human Research Protections freezes most Hopkins human subjects research. The university accepts responsibility. The study is shut down. One case rewrites training sessions, consent language, and how risk is hunted on page 1, not page 40. Who did it and why? Hopkins researchers chasing how nerves shape airway constriction so asthma could be understood and someday stopped. The Wren trial. January February 2016. Rennes, France. Healthy volunteers line up for a first-in-human pill that targets FAAH, the enzyme that helps switch off pain signals. The promise is clean, a new path for chronic pain and anxiety without opioids hooks. Who's running it and why? The Portuguese drug maker Biel sponsors the study. The contract research lab BioTrial conducts the Phase 1 trial to check safety, dosing, and how the drug moves through the body before any patient ever sees it. The goal is standard. Prove tolerability in healthy people, then treat disease. But across several days of repeated dosing, headaches turn to staggering and confusion. One man crashes, coma, catastrophic brain injury. 5 others are hospitalized with neurologic symptoms. The volunteer dies. The study halts. France and the field reel. Doctors report an unexpected pattern. Deep brain damage at the highest dose. Later work suggests the molecule may have hit enzymes far beyond FAAH. Regulators conclude this drug's toxicity appears unique to itself, not the whole class. Cause of death? Drug-induced cerebral necrosis, leading to brain death during a Phase 1 safety test.
If you enjoyed this animation, please subscribe for more and support my small channel. Share your ideas for the next video in the comments.